Welcome to the conditional verb tense. This is a fun verb tense. This is the verb tense which expresses all of your dreams, hopes, and wishes. This is where you get to play. The land of if. I would totally buy that car. I would love to lose 5 pounds. I would never wear that. You wouldn't dare. You would spend your last dollar helping man's best friend. I would spend all my days with you. I think we should travel more. You could use a hug. Would you marry me?
Yeah, but your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think if they should.
Understand, Frodo. I will choose this ring from a desire to do good. But through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine.
To begin with, many people, when conjugating the conditional verb tense, struggle with the concept that the word would is implied in the verb ending. There is no separate word in French for would. As an example, if I wanted to say, I would eat, there are 3 words in English, but in French, I would say, je mangerai. There are only 2 words in French. In this example, the word je is I. The beginning of the second word, M-A-N-G-E-R, means to eat. And the end of the second word, A-I-S, means would. So if I wanted to read the phrase je mangerai and translate it back to English word for word, it would look more like I eat would. The conditional verb tense is created, for the most part, by using a pronoun, the entire verb, and the ending that goes with that pronoun. We will look at the exceptions in a moment, but for now, let's look at the verb endings followed by examining regular verbs. While the conditional verb tense might seem a bit confusing, we have a few things to be grateful for. There are not many endings. Je and tu take the ending AIS. This does not change if it is a girl speaking versus a boy. Il and elle take the ending AIT. Again, nothing is added because it is a girl. Nous takes the ending IONS, and vous takes the ending IEZ. Finally, il and elle take the ending AIENT, and that's it. Once you memorize these 5 endings, you have half of the verb completed. Mind you, the easier half. Now let's look at how to conjugate regular verbs. If I wanted to say I would dance, I would write je, then the entire verb danser, and then I would add on my ending of AIS. In French, this becomes je danserai. Another example of this is if I wanted to say he would love France. I would use the pronoun il. I would then use the entire verb aimer, and I would add on the ending that corresponds with il, which is AIT. So this would then become il aimerait la France. The majority of French verbs will be fairly easy to conjugate, but we do have some exceptions, and most of them are the typical offenders. But for the most part, ER and IR verbs are the simplest. You simply write the verb in its entirety and then tack on the ending at the very end of the verb. IR verbs also function the same way that ER verbs do. You write down the entirety of the verb and then add on the ending at the end of the verb. Our example is choisir. If I wanted to say I would choose, then I would use the pronoun je and then write down the verb choisir in its entirety. Finally, I would add on my ending of AIS. The result is je choisirai. I would choose. RE verbs are generally not so bad. All you need to do is write down the verb in its entirety and then take off the final E before adding your ending. So if I wanted to say I would read, I would use the pronoun je, then write down the verb lire. I would then take off the final E. And finally, I would add on my ending. The result is je lirai. I would read. The irregular verbs are the most confusing and generally not very logical. For example, if I wanted to say I would be, I would still choose the pronoun je. I would then choose the verb être to conjugate. However, the root form of the verb être is not ETR as one might imagine. After all, it has an ER ending. However, for some unknown reason, the root, instead of being ETR, is SER. So then, so far, I would have my pronoun je followed by SER. And finally, I would add on my ending of AIS to become je serai. I count 13 regularly occurring irregular verbs in the conditional. Basically, you will need to memorize 13 verb roots. Many of these are totally illogical. Some are not so bad. However, they function the same as the rest of the verbs. Once you know the root, then all you have to do is add on the ending to complete the verb conjugation. As you can see here, the root of choisir is choisir. You do not have to add or take away any letters at the end of the verb choisir. This is a small list of RE verbs. Notice how the final E is removed to create the root. This is a list of the 13 commonly occurring irregular verbs in the conditional. Plain old memorization is what is needed here. This concludes Le Conditionnel. Thank you for watching.